We're going to start here with the breaking news out of California. The 5.1 magnitude earthquake centered in northern Orange County with more than 20 aftershocks. It may have been relatively moderate, but this quake is of particular concern to seismologists. And ABC's Ryan Owens is in Brea, California with more. Ryan, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Dan. We're about an hour east of downtown Los Angeles, very close to the epicenter. As you can see behind me, this road is closed because of one of those rock slides we talked about. And with all of those aftershocks overnight, it's been a very long night here. The quake did more than rattle nerves. It sent bottles flying off store shelves, mirrors crashing to the ground.
When I felt it, I felt like the world was going to end.
It wasn't the big one, but it was big enough. Magnitude 5.1. Its epicenter south of Los Angeles in Orange County, the OC, near the city of La Habra. The shaker wasn't strong enough to cause major structural damage or serious injuries, but it did trigger a small rock slide that overturned this car. The driver's okay. A few water main breaks were also blamed on the quake. The ground shook just after 9 Friday night in the 6th inning of the Dodgers game.
We might be experiencing, I should say, an earthquake here.
Everyone just stood still. Like, is it happening? Is that an earthquake?
This quake comes less than 2 weeks after news anchors ducked for cover during the so-called St. Patrick's Day shaker.
More problems for a troubled
earthquake.
Yep,
we're having an earthquake.
So no wonder Southern Californians are on edge. Still, this is LA. So plenty of people tweeted about their earthquake experience, and yes, some even took some not so steady selfies as the ground was shaking. Now, as we mentioned, seismologists are particularly worried about this quake because they think this fault may be reawakening. We haven't heard from this particular fault, they don't think, in several decades. They believe this is the same fault responsible for the Whittier quake in the 1980s that killed 8 people and caused more than $350 million in damage. Beyond the reason they really don't want to see this fault wake up again, it runs right through downtown LA.
Yeah, the second largest city in the country. Ryan, our thanks to you.
Earthquakes. More than 100 aftershocks shaking Los Angeles after a magnitude 5.1 quake struck Southern California last night, causing damages including a rock slide on a major road out there and some power outages. Will Carr live in Los Angeles with the very latest. Will?
Well, Greg, I know you're from this area, so you're probably quite used to things like this. The best way I could describe it is last night, the room that I was in became very wobbly, and people who were actually closer to the earthquake described it as a long, slow roll. Now, we should note that this is the second noticeable earthquake that Southern California has had within the past week. It hit last night at 9:09. It was centered near La Habra, which is about 20 miles southeast of Los Angeles. It was strong enough to cause a rock slide. It flipped a car upside down. Fortunately, the people inside that car only had minor injuries. It knocked goods off the shelves in stores. And check out this picture. It's a bathroom picture. It comes from our producer Janelle's brother who lives in Orange County. You can see that everything fell out of his cabinets in the bathroom, and all about 50 families ended up being displaced because they had damage to their homes. It also knocked out power for about 2,000 people in the area. Luckily, though, there was really just minor injuries. Nobody was seriously hurt. There were some broken water mains, and ever since the earthquake, we've had about 100 or more than 100 aftershocks, and experts say there could be more in the coming days. They also add, though, that this earthquake, which was stronger than last week's earthquake, which was a 4.4, that doesn't necessarily mean that an even stronger earthquake is around the corner.
We have never found worldwide a pattern of building up and then you get the really big earthquake. That's not the way earthquakes look like. Most of them are random.
So this is a good time to think about, if you live in an area that's prone to earthquakes, about potentially getting an earthquake preparedness kit. Inside that kit, you should have water, canned food, packaged food, and also a first aid kit. And Greg, if you're lazy or you don't have the time to go get that, I looked online. A number of websites have the kits ready that you can buy for roughly between maybe $50 and $100.
Oh, yeah. We used to stockpile the water in Los Angeles just for that event. Good advice, Will Carr. Thanks for the coverage. We begin with a major aftershock near Los Angeles. Geologists say the magnitude 4.5 tremor hit near Roland Heights less than 30 minutes ago. This on top of more than 100 aftershocks so far today. After a magnitude 5.1 earthquake jolted Southern California last night, causing widespread damage and forcing more than 80 people from their homes. Will Carr is live in Los Angeles with the very latest. Will?
Well, Greg, a lot of people are on edge right now because we're coming off a relatively calm earthquake period. And now within the last week, there's been a lot of activity. You've had these two big earthquakes and then more than 100 aftershocks since last night, including the one that you just mentioned that happened about 30 minutes ago. And this comes while people are still literally shaking from last night. I want you to take a look at this gas station surveillance video. Everything was calm, and then in a split second, the walls start shaking. The clerk bolted. A lot of the stuff behind the counter fell to the ground. That happened just after 9 o'clock last night. It was centered near La Habra, about 20 miles southeast of Los Angeles, and it was strong enough to cause a rock slide that actually ended up flipping a car upside down. Luckily, the passengers in that car escaped with only minor injuries. Nobody was seriously hurt in this earthquake last night. Since last night, like I mentioned, there have been more than 100 aftershocks, and we're told that there could be even more in the coming days. And again, this is the second noticeable big earthquake that we've had in the past week, Greg. And I can tell you that the aftershock that we just had about 30 minutes ago was actually bigger than the earthquake that we had last week.
Yeah, you showed us some of the pictures, but overall, how much damage was there across Southern California?
Well, there were some homes that were definitely damaged. We know of about 50 families that actually had to leave their homes because their homes had so much damage. There are pictures that we've seen of household items being tossed all around. The earthquake ended up knocking out power for about 2,000 people. It also broke several water mains. And at this time, it's probably good to start thinking about that. If you live in an area that's prone to earthquakes, thinking about possibly getting an earthquake preparedness kit. In that kit, you should have water, you should have packaged or canned food. You should also have a first aid kit. And if you don't have that right now, Greg, definitely something that you might want to think about paying for.
Yeah, that is great advice. Great reporting, Will Carr. We'll check back with you. Thanks so much.